So it's 2016 and I'm buying a flat. Okay, and I've been scouring the market, I've been saving up, I've been figuring out what I can afford. And I find a place, gorgeous little place in West Hampstead, northwest London. We agree a price. We're basically ready to exchange. I mean, the sale has all but gone through, except I haven't signed on the dotted line. And for little reasons, it just keeps getting pushed and pushed. But there's nothing major in the way. We've all agreed the sale's going to happen. Then it gets to June 23rd, the Brexit vote. It obviously did not go the way we expected. Markets crashed. The pound was down like 10%. House builder stocks, bank stocks, completely decimated. And, I just felt I'm not going to put the same amount of money into property that I was going to do a week ago. So I called him up and I tried to cut the price I was willing to pay.
God, I bet he was delighted to get that phone call.
He was not best pleased, yes. Do you think what I did was unfair?
No, I don't think you were. Because all those things that you've just listed, they're true, aren't they? And you're buying an asset. You're
Exactly.
not, it's a home too, obviously. But you're buying an asset. This isn't like splitting a bill with friends down the pub. This is the most amount of money you'll probably ever spend in your life.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think as well, sometimes the money is bigger than the moral issue here. I was like, there's a huge amount of money. I've got to do it my own way. We had some incredibly fraught conversations. It was really unpleasant. And in the end, I actually walked away from the flat and I didn't buy it and he lost the sale. And I thought, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm never going to see this guy again. Yeah. Anyway, 2 months later, I met my now husband and they're best friends. So, I have seen him quite a lot.
There are a few comments at the wedding, I bet.
Yeah, well, I did include it in my speech, obviously.
Of course.
But now we're one big happy family and we just don't talk about the flat. I'm Lauren Davidson, Head of Personal Finance at The Telegraph.
And I'm Sam Meadows, Personal Finance Reporter.
And my property buying dilemma is exactly the kind of thorny issue we'll be tackling on this brand spanking new podcast, aptly named Moral Money. Each week, we'll take 2 of your issues and sound them out with some of The Telegraph's best-known journalists and commentators. From legally avoiding tax to confronting your friends who never pay their share of the bill, this is the ultimate guide to what's okay and what's not in the awkward world of money morals.
And today on Moral Money, we're joined by one of the most outspoken members of the Telegraph's comment team. You may know him from BBC One's Question Time, Radio 4, and of course, the pages of the Telegraph. It's Tim Stanley.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be with you.
So, Tim, our first Moral Money conundrum is about getting on the property ladder, which is something you know a bit about, I hear.
I know about not getting on it. I tried to get on it. Is gazumped the right word when you're outbid?
Yeah.
A better word is I just didn't have enough money.
Oh, no.
that can get in the way of getting onto the property ladder.
So are you still in the market, or?
I am, but I have to come to terms with the fact that I may have champagne taste, but I have beer money. By which I mean I have terraced house tastes, but I have small flat money.
So
that's the reality.
So if any listeners have any small flats, get in touch.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, we've got 2 cracking moral money conundrums to discuss today. And the first one is on the subject of getting on the property ladder. So let me read it out to you. We are about to start looking at secondary school for our son, a reader writes. My wife and I both have successful careers and can comfortably afford to send our son to private school. However, one of the country's best state schools is not far away. We live outside the catchment area and I want to buy a second property, a flat, near the school so my son is eligible. I think sending him to state school will keep him more grounded. My wife disagrees. She thinks it's gaming the system and taking a place away from a child whose parents aren't in the same financial position as us. Should we do it or go private?
It's an interesting one.
Yeah, Tim, what do you think about that?
I think it's a fascinating tension between being a good citizen and being a good parent. And sometimes those two things do find themselves in conflict. So the good parent wants to do whatever is necessary to give the best of both worlds to their child, the excellent education and also being grounded, in inverted commas, by going to a state school. But the good citizen says, but if everyone did that who could do that, you're almost effectively turning that state school into a private school, into a selection on the basis of wealth, because everyone who can afford to will move there in order to be near it. And then you'll change the character of that school and really it just becomes a rich person's school. So I admire the parents for the fact that they're torn over this, and it shows good moral self-awareness. I think there is a Solomonic third way solution, which is to actually move the entire family to the catchment area of the state school if it matters so much to send the boy to the state school. Because that way you have the combination of you're doing the best for your child, which is admirable and what parents should always do, but also if it matters to you that you are not taking something away from the community, if you move into the area and you contribute to the community, then you're ticking both boxes.
Except if you move your whole family nearer the school because you're wealthy enough to do so, you could say that you're driving property prices up in the area, keeping out other families from moving near the school, and you kind of have the same effect at the end of the day anyway.
Well, quite possibly, but we live in a world in which people can move and in which prices do fluctuate, and it always comes down to, well, should I not walk down the street for fear of stepping on an ant? One could make so many judgments about one's ethics that you end up not doing anything at all. As I say, if you contribute to the community and improve it, then I see that as a potential win-win for both. Yes, you're another rich person moving in, therefore driving up property prices, but you're also making it in a non-material way a better place to live.
There's also a lot of assumptions that are being made here. I mean, the whole thing is built on the premise that private school kids aren't going to be grounded. And they need to send their kid to a state school for that to happen. I mean, do we agree with that?
Also, that moving you're either lying and cheating the system or uprooting your family to move them to a different house is going to help your child stay grounded.
Right.
The fact that you teaching them you can game the system to get what you want at the expense of evereverone else in society. It's not really a good lesson, is it?
Is that teaching them that to be grounded and take their lot? I'm not so sure.
I'm not convinced by this word grounded at all. I'm not sure what it means. Does it mean... Well, there's a sort of implicit in it is a really backhanded compliment to the state sector that it's somehow real and
authentic,
whereas the private system isn't. Again, what is it you want for your child? It should be what school provides the thing that your child needs in order for them to succeed. And for some, that might not be quote unquote groundedness. It might be an education which has smaller class sizes, which emphasizes music or something like that. So I'm not quite sure what it is they're looking for when they're looking for something which is more grounded.
Well, this question has already been posted on the Telegraph website, and we put a poll in there. So I actually know what readers think about this question. 20% said buy the second property. 29% said move the family home nearer to the school. More than half said just pay for private school.
Ah, interesting.
What do you think about that?
I think they're making a highly ethical call that they don't want to take a place away, and also there's absolutely nothing wrong with paying for private education. The problem in this country is that it's now increasingly unaffordable for most middle class people. I'm actually just astonished to hear that anyone can afford a private education now.
Yeah.
If I was them, I don't know about moving to that area. I'd be moving to Malibu or something. Clearly, they're very wealthy people.
You get some sun then as well.
Right, exactly. So that's part of the problem here is that when you make a decision to go private, it's not just costly, but I suppose in a way you are moving your child into a whole new social sphere because there are so few people who can afford to do it.
Sure.
What do we think about the ethics of? I mean, because the wife here thinks that you take a place away from a child whose parents can't afford it. I mean, you could apply that to lots of things. Private healthcare is one example. I mean, do we think that using the NHS when you could afford private healthcare is
question.
an unethical decision? It's the same kind of wheelhouse, or do we think that's different?
Is it unethical? I can understand why you might think it was, and I think Margaret Thatcher made this argument, didn't she, in the 80s when she had a private operation and she said, I'm freeing up a bed for someone else, and that's an ethical decision. Except first of all that you are contributing to it through your taxes, so you have a right to use it.
Of course.
And second, by using it, you're increasing your stake in a social good. You're participating in a social good.
Yeah.
And therefore that strengthens community.
The other aspect to consider of this one as well is that if they do as the father here is suggesting, and they buy a flat to be in the catchment area, I mean, they're breaking the rules. They could get in some quite serious trouble.
Yeah, you're right, Sam.
Yeah.
I think it is worth mentioning for any listeners out there that
That's
this
right,
is illegal.
yes.
You will be committing fraud if you don't live in the property.
And as one reader pointed out in the comments on this piece, if this school is so popular, it is quite likely that they will investigate this stuff and they will look into it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And what does it say again? Not only private schools become more expensive, what does it say about the quality of state schools? that people would consider that extraordinary expense and the legal risk of doing that in order to get their kid into one. What it means is that many state schools have improved to the point whereby they are competitive to private schools, if not even better. And that's a good thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So this moral dilemma is actually is an embarrassment of riches.
Definitely. And what I like about this moral dilemma is I think the typical question you might assume was, how do I get my kids into private school? How do I game the system to do that? And this is the other way. We can do that, but actually...
How do we get them into state school?
And I think that does play into what you said before, Tim, about private school becoming so much more expensive.
Yeah.
I went to private school and I recently met the alumni office, and they said that, when I was there, it was the children of middle-class parents, accountants, doctors.
Exactly.
And it's now the children of business people, international business owners.
Yeah.
And the whole demographic of what private school is today has changed.
Yeah, and the other surprise is that this isn't a grammar they're trying to get their kid into, because I went to one of those, and it used to be that the big pressure was paying for tuition, moving into the catchment area, all that sort of thing to get into a grammar.
Right.
But again, how things have changed, that a non-selective state school is more attractive, or just as attractive as a private school.
Absolutely. Well, I went to a non-selective state school, but I was lucky that in rural Oxfordshire it was a very, very good school. And
Did you feel grounded?
I felt very grounded, always.
There was lots of ground,
Always.
very earthy.
Well, our school was it was the old comprehensive, it was all very new, and the other school in town was 350 years old. So, you know, I felt very grounded about, they're the posh ones. That was an interesting discussion. We've covered a lot of ground there. I mean, what are our main takeaways, Lauren?
I'd really like what you said, Tim, is at the end of the day, we can debate the morality of this and the costs of it, but you have to do what's right for your family. And I think that will really resonate with a lot of listeners.
Yeah, I think good for Britain that it's got such highly competitive state schools. Good for the family they're worrying about it. Got to put their own kid first, but you can do that in a way which means you're still part of the community. And I think the solution is to move your entire family to be close to the school so that it really is your school.
And you haven't committed fraud.
Win-win. Very
Absolutely.
important.
Don't go anywhere, because we will be back with another fascinating money dilemma, and we'll be hearing Tim's thoughts after this.
Hello, podcast listeners. My name's Danny Boyle, and I'm the Telegraph's commuter editions editor, which means it's my job to provide you with great journalism that makes your journey to and from work as enjoyable as possible. I can't prevent train delays or guarantee you won't get caught in the rain, but I can make sure you're up to date with the best of the Telegraph every morning and evening. And I just wanted to let you know about one of the ways you can get all that in audio form. All you need to do is join my WhatsApp group. Every weekday, my colleague Chris Price and I bring you short audio briefings directly to your smartphone at 8 in the morning and 5:30 in the afternoon. And the best bit, it's completely free to sign up and easy. Just click on the link in the show notes for this episode. I look forward to having you as a group member soon.
Welcome back to Moral Money, the podcast where we debate all sorts of ethical issues around your cash. We have another great dilemma, and we're still joined by Tim Stanley. This one, I will read it out. It was sent in by a reader from Gloucestershire. I gave my nephew £500 as sponsorship for a half marathon. He was going to run on behalf of a charity that delivers aid overseas, and he had to meet a minimum sponsorship amount. I don't particularly care about the charity, but I gave him the money so that he could take part in the race. He ended up not running at all. He claimed he was ill, but his parents tell me he was lazy and did very little training. The charity still expects to receive the sponsorship money, but I want to ask for it back. My nephew would struggle to repay me the £500 himself, as he's 17 and saving for a car. What do we think of that? Any initial thoughts?
He's 17 and saving. Poor thing, poor darling. What I think is so interesting about this case is the way in which the moral focus of the story shifted. So initially the aunt was doing it because she wanted to help her nephew. The focus was on, I want to encourage him to do a good thing.
Yeah.
But then because he didn't do the run, it then shifts to, but what do I do about the charity? Because she's got a very good case for asking for the money back if you didn't do the thing, because you were paying the person to do the thing. If they don't do the thing, normally you ask for the money back.
Absolutely. Sponsorship is conditional.
Right. But because he was doing the thing for a good cause, and the cause presumably has the money already, she can hardly then ask for the cause to give the money back. So the focus of the morality switches from her trying to help the boy to now what does she do about the charity, which is why I feel so angry towards the boy, because he's now made his aunt responsible for what happens to this charity.
Absolutely.
So I feel I feel so sorry for her. I think she cannot possibly ask for it back from the charity, but I think she's got to ask it back from the boy. And he's got to learn that if you can't be bothered to run, you can't have a car.
Yeah, definitely. The car thing is what gets to me. I mean, if he'd started the race and fell over after the first mile and injured himself and he couldn't continue, you'd think, you know what? He tried.
Yeah.
He didn't even get up in the morning and turn up.
Right.
You know, he didn't even try. But he can't afford because he's saving up for something that's fully a luxury. I think that's just cheeky.
According to his parents, and quite brutal parents telling all his friends that he was lazy and did very little training. Yeah, he didn't even do the 6 weeks of training, or is it 6 weeks? Can you tell I've never run a marathon?
No, me neither. But he still has the wherewithal to save for a car. Which just suggests that the priorities here are completely out of whack. I'm not quite sure why a 17-year-old needs a car anyway. It's ridiculously young to have a car, and the insurance would be through the roof. The more you learn about this, the more questions it raises. So she's got absolutely every right to expect something back, but the problem is it can't come out of the pocket of the charity, because that would be hurting a third party in order to settle an injustice between two people.
Also, these places at marathons, they're really competitive. If he hadn't taken that place, the charity could have given it to someone. Someone else. I mean, if we assume it's the London Marathon, say, I mean, they're massively oversubscribed every year.
So it's not sort of, oh, lucky the charity's got 500 quid. It's really going to be out of pocket. If they don't, they will have budgeted on having that income. Yeah. So I think you're right. It's absolutely got to come from the lazy nephew.
And I mean, some readers have made the case on this one. This has also been published on the Telegraph's website before. And several readers have made the case that what message does it send to the nephew if you kind of let him get away with it, as it were, get away with not doing any training.
And worse, feel he's done some good for someone somewhere because someone gets the 500 quid from his aunt. He might actually delude himself into thinking that on balance, a good thing was done here when it wasn't. It's not enough to do the right thing. You have to do the right thing for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
And this is a case in which it's been apparently done for very much the wrong reasons.
I do have a couple of great comments from readers here from when the article was published online. One reader writes, "Your nephew sounds like a bit of a toad. Give him nothing more ever." But of course, you know, this is the nephew's aunt. So the nephew's parents are her sister or brother. There's a tricky family dynamic to bear in mind here. You can't just sort of shrug your shoulders and walk away.
One reader has made that point very well here. He said that it comes down to how important the relationship to this lad and his parents is to you. Because if you demand the money back, and he does make the point that this person is perfectly entitled to ask for the money back, then you might end up getting blamed by the nephew and his parents. And do you want that, or could you just take the hit for the good of the family relationship?
But that is the thing as well, is that when the woman thought the nephew was going to run the marathon, she could afford to lose £500. You know, she could sponsor him £500. So she's no sort of further out of pocket for it.
Right.
You don't sound convinced.
No, I think there's a principle there, because as I said, she was trying to help him, and now he's forced her to be in a difficult situation with genuinely needy people. I would also be asking, where are the parents in all of this? Really, the people who should resolve this are not the aunt, or even really the boy, and certainly not the charity. The people who should resolve this are the parents, because he's only 17 and they're in charge, and they should be telling him, you work now to pay that money back.
A reader does make a point that I thought was quite interesting, that you could come to an arrangement where he mows the lawn every week for 6 months.
Yeah.
As a sort of payment.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that shows willing, that acknowledges that he didn't do the thing that he was being paid to do. And not even being paid in the way of doing a job, being paid on behalf of other people. That's what makes this so morally awful.
Another aspect of this that comes up is, I think, the way sponsorship works has changed a little bit. When I was 14, you'll all be shocked to hear this, but I had very long hair down past my shoulders, and I decided to get it all shaved off in the school sports hall for charity. And I got people to sign up to sponsor me, and you didn't collect the money until after the hair had all been shaved off.
Yes.
But now, with it all online, you pay straight away. And some people are saying, it's quite foolish to
That's interesting. That made me think,
someone.
Because I remember people going around classes and places of work with clipboards with where you would sign up to put £1. And
exactly.
I thought you might put £1 in a bucket, but I didn't realize you literally paid in advance.
Well, these days you go online and you pay the money, and that's gone straight away.
Yeah.
Before the thing that you are sponsoring has happened, and it leads to problems like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a bit skeptical about fun runs anyway. I mean, this isn't a fun run, but I'm a little bit skeptical because I prefer just to give. I'd rather cut out the nephew altogether. If I don't want to give £500, I'd rather just give £500.
I'm sure the organisers of the London Marathon would be delighted
would
to
agree.
describe it as a fun run.
Yeah.
Would agree. But again, that just brings us back to the point that the aunt was giving the money really for him, not for the charity. That's why this is so outrageous.
Tim, what would it cost in sponsorship for you to do a half marathon?
Not more than £500. Several thousand.
Yeah. Wow, that's low. It'd be millions for me. You wouldn't catch me doing that. But you're right. I think this does come down at the end of the day to family values and sort of understanding the relationship and getting the nephew to realise that something's got to give.
Yeah.
You know, he has to realise that there needs to be some sort of payback and it needs to come out of him.
Yes.
Absolutely. If it was me, I think he'd be washing my car for a very long time.
When another reader commented saying, make sure you send a card for every birthday, wedding, christening, etc. with a note saying, please deduct the cost of the present from the £500 I sent earlier until such time as you feel he's paid it off. It could keep you going for quite a long time, that.
What a great idea.
The only thing, I mean, it's not in his defense, but psychologically, it is often true of kids. I remember when I was a child that you have a great understanding of your own money and you have no appreciation whatsoever of other people's because parents just pay for things and you don't think about where it comes from or the effort that goes into it. So it's sort of ironic that he's done this one thing, but on the other hand, he is saving up. So he is learning about money, but he still obviously hasn't grasped what it means for other people to lose money.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Tim, how were you with money when you were a child?
I didn't have any. I was a child. I used to get £1 a week from my father. And then I think it was upped to £10 a month. And then eventually I thought I had to go out there and earn the money like a proper working person. So like millions of other young people, I went and taught piano.
Naturally led to journalism.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us today, and to our wonderful producer, Theodora Louloudis. If you've got anything you'd like us to talk about on the show or any thoughts on what we've discussed today, do get in touch. You can email us at moralmoney@telegraph.co.uk.
And of course, as valued podcast listeners, you can get 30 days free access to all of the Telegraph's brilliant online news, politics, business, sports, lifestyle, and more at telegraph.co.uk/audio.
You can subscribe to this feed to make sure that you don't miss an episode. And if you've enjoyed listening today, please do go along to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and a review.
We don't accept ratings less than 5 stars, so please do leave a 5-star review.
Thank you very much to Tim for joining us and giving us your moral guidance.
It's a pleasure.
And we will be back next week with 2 more Moral Money Dilemmas.